Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2021 webinar series. Today's presentation is Building Customer Relationships Online, How to Connect with Your Audience. My name is Jessica Brower, and I'm with our COVID-19 support program, and I will be your speaker today. So before we start, I want to go ahead and point out the GoToWebinar control panel on the right side of your screen. I'd like to call attention to both the questions panel and the chat box. If you have any comments or questions during the webinar today, which I hope you do, I'd like you to use those to communicate with us. I'll try to keep an eye on them while I'm presenting, but feel free to jot down my contact information just in case I'm not able to get to your questions. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent out to all registrants shortly after the live event today. You can also visit our website at www.wyomingwomen.org and navigate to the training tab to view all upcoming webinars and past webinar recordings. If you are watching this webinar live, a survey will launch shortly after we close the presentation. Please complete the survey, as this provides us and our funding partners with valuable information, and it's also a great place to share with us where you'd like to see other trainings. As a reminder, all participants are muted to minimize background noise. So once again, if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, please type them in the chat box or the question panel. So before I get started with my presentation, we're going to go over some quick information about the Wwbc in case you aren't familiar with us already. The Wwbc is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to enable and empower Wyoming entrepreneurs with a special emphasis on women who are economically or socially disadvantaged. We do that through 4 distinct programs. The first is our business counseling and training program, which is always free. The second is our microfinance programs, which offer microloans and individual development accounts. Third is the Artist Development Center. We run in conjunction with our Works of Wyoming store in downtown Laramie. And lastly, we launched our COVID-19 support program, which is available and offering assistance until April 30th of this year. This webinar is brought to you by that COVID-19 support program, and I want to call special attention to the list of services available to Wyoming business owners when they become clients. And like I mentioned, this is available until April 30th. So you can sign up for these services by going to wyomingwomen.org, or you can contact Veronica Donahue directly. She's our program coordinator. Your phone number and email address are there at the bottom of the screen. So with all that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, my name is Jessica Brower, and I am the outreach counselor with the Wyoming Women's Business Center's COVID-19 support program. I've also been doing communications consulting and marketing with nonprofits, small businesses, local governments, and community organizations for about the last 10 years. So I'm really excited to be talking with you today about something that I believe is really foundational for all marketing efforts. I see a lot of people who are wanting to jump into marketing, whether that's on social media, email, newsletters, radio, print, and the things that we're going to talk about today, I believe, are absolutely foundational and often skipped. So I'm going to start with a really simple question, and that is, who is your customer? An answer I get to this question often is something like, well, my customer is anybody who will buy from me, or my customer is anybody who walks into my store. My customer is anybody who hires me to do my work. Well, that is a customer who's getting you money, which I know you want to get money. That isn't what I'm asking. What I want to know is, who is your customer? Who did you create your business to serve specifically? And homing in on these details allows you to create much more compelling marketing. So I'd really encourage you maybe to grab a piece of paper and to jot down some notes as I'm talking, as we get into some more specific questions about who your customer is. This would be a really great starting place for you to dive into some of the work that we're going to talk about moving through the next 45 minutes or so. So why do I need to know my customer? What's the point? I'm just trying to sell things. So to know your customer helps many things. It attracts the customer that you want. You know the customers that feel good for you to work with, and you know the customers that don't feel great to work with. We all have them. This is normal, regardless of what industry you're in. It also attracts the customer that wants you. We all have highly specific tastes, and so we want to be matched with the businesses and service providers that offer exactly what we're looking for. When you know who your customer is and you're creating marketing that's attracting that person, then you're going to find the right person. It's like dating. You're starting a relationship and you're able to really connect with this foundation. It facilitates a stronger bond and loyalty between you and your customer moving forward. Ideally, they become a customer and they buy from you repeatedly. They tell their friends about you. They share their content, or they share your content. They help spread the word when you launch a new product or a new service. It allows you to narrow your focus on what tools to use for marketing. And this is a thing that we'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation. There's many, many ways to do marketing, and I'm sure you're all very aware of this. And when you know who your audience is, you can cut some of those ways out because you know they're not there. So you don't need to be there. You don't have to do everything. It also allows you to conduct market research as you grow your business, add products, adjust services, respond to their needs. This is a thing that is huge right now. In response to COVID, everybody's needs have changed, and the way we conduct business and the way that we interact with our customers has changed because it has had to. So when you know what your customer needs right now, then you're able to appropriately grow, scale, adjust your business in order to meet those needs and to continue that really strong relationship. So if you know your customer well, you know what they need in a difficult time and how you can best serve them. And I don't think anybody needs me here to tell you today that we're in a difficult time and have been in a difficult time for many months now. So really think about a product or a store or a restaurant that seems to just constantly be releasing products or services that you can't live without, that you're very excited about, that you just are eating up. This isn't by accident. This work in getting to know your customer is foundational, and that's what those companies are doing. They're releasing the products they need, that you want, because they know you need them. They know you want them. And I know, I peeked at some of the attendees that are here with us this afternoon, and I know people will be catching this recording, and we have a broad array of people here: nonprofits, service-based businesses, retailers, restaurants, all of that. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. This is, I think this is incredibly relevant work to be done today and probably routinely as your business scales and as things change, as you're responding to the climate, such as how we are now with the pandemic. I think this is really important to have in your toolkit. So here are some things that we're going to chat about. We're going to talk about creating your customer profile, and next, using that customer profile, deciding what it is you have to say and how you'd like to say it. And lastly, in this keep going section, really this is just about strategizing and moving forward and being consistent, which is often one of the hardest things I see small businesses come up against, because I get it, you're running a small business, having a strategic marketing plan on top of all of that, you don't have time for it. So I'm going to share some tools to hopefully make that a little bit easier for you. So first up, we're going to make a customer profile. So this could be just a list of notes. It could be gathered photos if you like doing vision boards or creating visual representations of your customer. That's a fun way to do it, using a Pinterest board and just gathering photos, images, words, phrases, data, whatever that really helps you get to know who your customer is. So the first question we're going to ask is that question I started this with, is who did you start your business to serve? What does that person look like? You likely started your business with one pretty specific clientele in mind. And a lot of times I see people get stuck here and they think, well, we just make cupcakes. We just started our business because we wanted to make cupcakes. And so this does require you to dig a little bit deeper and to think, well, what kind of people who want cupcakes were you thinking of? People who wanted something that was scratch made, something that was unique, something that was customized, something to celebrate their loved ones. That's the kind of information that's really helpful as you start to dig into this customer profile. So like I said before, if you grabbed a piece of paper, here's a great spot to start jotting down just some words about who you started your business to serve. Next is, what does their life look like? So this is where we get into kind of the analytic data that can almost be a little creepy. So this is information that is available to you if you're using social media. You can dig into your analytics and to see what some demographic information on who is engaging with your content. Things like how old they are, where they live, other pages that they're engaging with. But you also can kind of intuitively think about this ideal customer, this person you started your business to serve, and make a ballpark guess. This doesn't have to be perfect. You know, you don't have to know exactly how old they are and exactly what their job is, but just have a roundabout idea of what does their life look like. So questions that you would address would be things like, how old are they? Where do they live? Where do they work? What is their job? What does their family look like? How much money do they make? How are they spending that money? Then from here, we're going to go even deeper. And so when I think about this, I really like to think about having kind of a fictional interview with that ideal customer. So if you have that vision board and you have, you know, the visuals really help you kind of imagine this imaginary customer, then continuing on this kind of make-believe journey, thinking about talking to this customer. Imagine sitting down and having coffee with them and just asking them about their life and asking them what they're doing, as if they're your friend. You want to know the things that you know about your friends. So things like, what products do they love? What products do they not like? Where are they struggling? This is, you know, right now, we know we're all struggling with pandemic related things. So this is important. Where could they use help? Where, you know, is your customer a young mother? And do you know that she's struggling because her children are attending school on Zoom and she's also working full time and she doesn't have any time and she's tired and she doesn't have enough energy to make meals? You know, these are things that help you speak to her and to meet her where she's at. What makes them feel joy? What makes them excited? What makes them share something? What do they talk to their friends about? How do they spend their time and money? How has their life changed recently? Again, this would be in reference to COVID in a lot of ways, but I think this could be true in any climate. You know, if they're affected by the political climate, if they're affected by the weather, if they're affected by the season, you know, you'll know based on your industry what changes their life. And so to know that and to think about what they have to say about that is incredibly valuable as you start to have conversations with them. And I truly believe that effective marketing, it's not just a sales pitch. It's not just a graphic that says, hey, buy this thing. It's a conversation. It's an opportunity for you to connect and to really have a genuine conversation with your ideal customer, knowing that you're their ideal business to serve their highly specific needs. Okay, so that's just a place to start on the customer profile. This is a thing that we could spend a lot of time on. So I really encourage you to just go whichever direction resonates with you and to just start to gather information in a way about your customer that feels good to you. So you start to feel like you really understand who you're talking to. And a note on this would be, especially in nonprofit work, a lot of times you have multiple customer profiles or audience profiles. A lot of times you're talking to a variety of different people. So you may set up a couple different profiles. You know, some of them may just have lifestyle or professional elements that are totally different. And so the way I would address that is to not have a big, broad customer profile, but to instead have a couple of individuals. So then to imagine that fictional conversation over coffee isn't one-on-one, it's you with 3 or 4 people. Okay, so next we're going to decide on what you have to say. What is it you have to say about your business? And this is a place where I probably see the majority of my clients get stuck. And ultimately, it's a hard subject to talk to you about here in a webinar. It's a hard subject to talk about in counseling. It's a hard subject to talk about in a lot of ways because it's not necessarily a lesson in learning business prowess, in learning a software or beating a system or some sort of hack to get people to buy your product. It's a lesson in your personal value and confidence. And so what I really urge you to do is to seek the resources that feel supportive to you in that realm. What makes you feel confident in the services that you're offering? Maybe that's friends, maybe that's books, maybe that's business podcasts, maybe that's networking groups, maybe that's in your faith community, maybe that's in your family. You're going to know who that is. And you have to make that commitment to you to really find that confidence. I unfortunately cannot teach it to you, but I can tell you that it is one of the biggest roadblocks I see in anybody trying to market their business. Marketing is not a good place to be humble, to say, oh, hey, look at this thing, you know, maybe you'll like it, isn't really compelling. And so this is a place where spending time is important. So think about, again, why did you start your business? What do you do? What is special about what you do? What is that unique value you're offering? And then how can you find the confidence to say it in a way that feels genuine and authentic and presents you confidently? There's really no secret sauce there. But I can tell you it is hard work, a thing that we all struggle with. Ultimately, what you have to say, that, you know, this decide what you have to say, what you're going to have to say is going to look a little something like this. Obviously, this is lacking a little bit of tact, but these are just the things that I need you to touch on. My name is, my business is, my organization is blank. I sell a thing, I do a thing, I offer a thing, I support a thing, this is the thing. It's really great because this, you know, I use all scratch made, I make all scratch made baked goods. I source all locally made artists. I, you know, am really good at what I do because of this. And this is how you buy it. This is how you book it. This is where you get it. So that's what it is that you're going to have to say. And we'll talk a little bit more about that moving forward. Next, we're going to decide, how would you like to say it? So there are many ways to communicate. And so this can be overwhelming for sure. So in order to create effective digital content, which is mostly what we're focusing on here today, though I do feel like what I'm talking about is super supportive in any realm of marketing or PR or sales. You know, I think doing all this work before you make a call to sell your product, or before you speak to the press if you're being interviewed about a project or an event, or before you write a script for a radio ad, I think it's equally as relevant. Today we're just focusing on digital content, mostly because you know, in addressing where our customers at today, we know that they're mostly all online in response to kind of this new normal with the pandemic that we've been in this last year. So in order to create effective digital content, there are 3 important things that I think you should consider. And that is your unique voice. So that is, how will you speak to your customer? You know, what words? What's the tone? Next is your ideal platform. Where will I share my content? You know, is this in newsletters, in Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, what social media? And lastly, your best medium. And by this, I mean video, graphics, text, you know, how can I best communicate what I'm trying to communicate? And we're going to dive into each of these. So first off, how will you speak to your customer? And this is a thing that I guarantee you is probably way more intuitive than you think. You probably, you know, sometimes this question I ask and people get really kind of clammed up and think, oh God, I don't know. How do I speak to my customers? What words do I use? What is happening there? And chances are you're already doing it. You just haven't quite noticed. And so, you know, if you're overwhelmed by this question right now, then a thing to do is, as you move forward through the next couple of weeks, and every time you write an email to a client or you create a social media post, pay attention to what you're writing, because you do have a way that you're speaking to your customers. So what does a conversation inside my business look like? So at one point, maybe that was customers walking into your store and purchasing from you, or into your office and talking about your services. Maybe that's on a Zoom call or a phone call. Maybe that's in social media comments. What words and phrases do we use, and what words and phrases do we avoid? This is especially important as you start to scale your marketing and perhaps you hire help or somebody's supporting you in doing it. It's very important to have a consistent voice. And a lot of how we interact with content is subconscious. So if I write a social media post trying to sell those cupcakes, and then my business partner writes a social media post trying to sell those cupcakes, and she speaks in a very aggressive, harsh tone, and I speak in a very soft, flowery tone, the audiences are going to be like, whoa, what's happening here? This is kind of confusing. This isn't the business I know. Because it's a relationship. It's the same way if you think about you know, a partner or a friend. If all of a sudden their tone changes, there's something in you that's kind of like, what is that? I don't understand. So what is the emotion that our space creates for customers? So with this, you know, think about just think about the way you want your customers to feel. And a good way I like to kind of present this is to think about the fact that, you know, an attorney is going to speak differently to their customers than the owner of a toy store. A woman's boutique is going to speak differently than a motorcycle shop, because they're talking to different people. You're selling different products. It's different lifestyles. You're addressing different issues. You're solving different problems. So of course the language is going to be different. And then what do we want our customers to feel when they engage with us? You know, do you want them to feel safe? Do you want them to feel supported? Do you want them to feel excited, inspired? Do you want them to feel love or fear? Or, you know, it all really depends on what it is that you're selling. And ultimately, it's how are you going to provide them confidence in your service? And this looks different business to business, but ultimately, regardless of if you're a hairstylist or if you're an accountant, ultimately you want your customer to trust you with, you know, doing hair or doing your taxes. Totally different thing, but it's still foundationally the same thing is happening there. So next is, where is your customer? So this is where, when I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, where you can kind of start to cut down on your workload. You know, you don't need to be everywhere because you're running a small business. You're not also a marketing firm. I understand that. And that is a thing that I want to be abundantly clear in all of this work, is I don't think that marketing should become more overwhelming than the actual work that you're doing. And I do think there is a way around that with some foundational work. And oftentimes we avoid that just because it's overwhelming and it's scary and we don't have any time and we don't want to do it. And I get it, trust me. But this is a place where you can start to just cut things out, weed them out. You don't need to do them. And that's by asking, where is my customer at? Are they on social media? And if so, are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Pinterest? Are they on Twitter? Are they on LinkedIn? If they're not, I see no reason for you to be there. That seems like a really good way to waste your time. So if you know that your customer is a certain age group that is on a certain social media platform, then I would prioritize that platform. If you know that they're not on a platform, then don't do it. And what I will tell you all to do is to make sure that you are following along with the Women's Business Center on social media, or that you're on our newsletter list, because we do have some more content coming out about social media platforms. There's a lot of data out there about what age groups, what demographics are on which platforms. And so that can be really helpful if you're totally new to social media. And I'm going to show you some more resources that we have too, in case you're thinking, oh my gosh, Jess, please stop talking about all these platforms. There are lots of resources, so I don't want to lose you here in listing all of these things. So some other questions to ask: are they shopping online? Now with COVID, they probably are. And so this has been a huge shift in a lot of businesses. That's precisely why the COVID-19 support program was started with the Women's Business Center, and why I'm here talking to you today. We know that people are online, and so we know that businesses need to move online. There are very few industries that I think could tell me, oh, my customer isn't online, and that I would let that fly. Are they checking local Facebook groups or signed up for community newsletters? These are just a couple of questions. You know, you could go into these questions into every kind of marketing that you're trying to do, digital or otherwise. You know, a thing that I see a lot is people purchase newspaper advertising. And then my first question is your customer reading the newspaper? There's a certain demographic that's reading the newspaper. So it's quick to weed that out. It's quick to, weed out TikTok, for example. If you're selling, if you know that your ideal customer is in her 70s, you probably don't need to focus on a TikTok strategy. And also, if you're selling to somebody who's in their late teens or early 20s, you probably don't need to be buying newspaper ads. And so I just think this is an incredibly helpful tool. And so another thing that I see come up a lot recently in the last year in chatting with clients is things just look different now because of COVID. A lot of people, your ideal customer used to be in a trade show or at a farmer's market or in walking into a street or at a networking event, at a business conference. And those have all been canceled. So they're not there anymore. So now this question is incredibly important. Where are they now instead? Where are they finding these relationships? Where are they connecting to people? They are doing it somewhere. And it may not be the way it was before, and that's scary and hard and frustrating, but they are somewhere. And so getting ahead of it just enough to know where they're at so that you can place yourself there is hugely important in creating strategic marketing. And then moving into what medium or mediums will best say what it is that you need to say. So a lot of people get stuck here as well because it's overwhelming. There's a lot of things, and there can be a learning curve. Like, I'm not a photographer, I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not a videographer. I don't want to be in front of the camera. It makes me nervous. I don't like this. I'm feeling uncomfortable. And this is super, super common. And so I think it is important to think about where is your skill set at. And I think it's also important to know that there's a lot of resources to expand that skill set. And I think it's important to think where or what kind of content does your customer want? Maybe you don't want to get in front of a camera because you're camera shy, or you don't like your hair, or you think it's, you just feel weird. We all feel weird in front of the camera generally. But maybe your customer really needs to build a relationship with you face to face because of the work you're doing. Maybe you do counseling services or teach yoga classes or meditation or do accounting. Maybe you do something that's incredibly intimate, and most of your relationships were founded in face-to-face conversations where you really got to connect. Video could be a really great tool for you, and even if it makes you nervous. And so that's the thing that I really encourage you to think about is, what can you do? What do you feel comfortable doing? But also, what does your customer need from you? And where can you meet in the middle? I'm not asking you to lie on the tracks and just do whatever your customer wants, but sometimes we have to do uncomfortable things. Just some things here to think about. I think photos are incredibly important regardless of what platform you're on. At one time, Facebook wasn't, having visual elements wasn't hugely important. I think it is important now. Instagram is all visual. Ultimately, when we're engaging in social media content, there's so much that we're looking at. And we're scrolling. We all do it. And so we need something that's captivating. So a visual element is important. And a thing I ask many of my clients when we're talking about social media is, what kind of content performs best for you? And time again, they say photos that show me or photos that show people. And I'm going to tell you the truth here. When I ask my clients this, it's, I know the answer to the question before I ask it, but I just ask it to reiterate, you have to post photos of people. People connect to people. People connect to faces. Beautiful things are cool, but ultimately we're going to connect to human beings. And so however you can get human connection into your visuals is really helpful. So I'd really encourage you maybe to respond to that question here in the chat and to share what are some of the best kinds of content that you've shared on social media that you see people really engaging with. I'm curious what you have to say, but I also want you to see what your peers are doing to maybe get some ideas of content that you can share if you're feeling stuck and you don't know what to say. So go ahead and do that if you're feeling up for it. Another thing is video, which I touched on a little bit here before. And I do think video is an incredibly powerful tool. You know, I think it can be overwhelming, and a lot of times people say, well, I'm not a videographer, I don't have a great camera, so I can't do that. I'm nervous, you know, there's many reasons not to do it. I think with the technology of most computers, webcams, which pretty much all of us have now because we live on Zoom, and smartphones, you can create a video that's good enough. Is it going to win any awards? And, you know, it's not going to become a TV series. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can create a good enough video to captivate an audience. And so I really encourage you to play around with that. Some tips on video: again, show your face. People connect to people. And under 90 seconds is kind of the magic area there. You know, we've probably all seen this. You try to watch a video and you see like, oh, it's 3 minutes, that's too long. Because we ingest so much content that keeping it short and compelling and concise is helpful. Another thing to consider is graphics, or also animated graphics. So there are a lot of great tools now to do this. Canva is a tool that I'm going to talk about here in a second, and I really encourage you to take advantage of that. You can create graphics with text. There's templates to do it. It's super intuitive to use. You don't have to have any graphic design experience, and we have a bunch of resources on that. So with that, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if, you know, in all of these things that I'm talking about, if you're just thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many platforms, there's so many things, I don't know how to do them, help me, I'm not going to do it. I've heard all of it. We have free training for you. So I would like you to direct your attention to the handouts tab on the right side of your screen, unless you move that little box. It just says handouts, colon, and then 1. And under that, there is a bite-sized training PDF. And this PDF has a link to our Canva crash course, Facebook tutorials, and Instagram tutorials. So this is just an example of some of the content we have, but I think this is a really good place to start. So this Canva crash course will move you through using that Canva for creating graphics, which will be great for social media posts, great for email newsletters, great for many, many things. I really encourage you to use it. It's a great training. Rebecca is a member of our team. She does a great job. So check that out. And then there's the Facebook tutorials and the Instagram tutorials. Now these would be for those of you who are brand new to Facebook and Instagram. You haven't used the platform. You are afraid of it. You know, you're not sure how to get started. These walk you through both platforms and how to get started, how to create content, how to utilize the tools there. So if that's where you're at on social media, I really encourage you to take a look at that. If you're a little bit farther along and you feel like this is too basic for you, there is loads of content that's available through our website, so you can check that out. And then, as always, I'm available as a counselor to chat one-on-one if that's a thing that you wanted to do. And I'll give you some more information here at the end on that. So lastly is this keep going part, which can be one of the most difficult because, you know, we all do the thing where we start working, we get things going, it's going well, we're feeling good about it, and then we get tired and we stop doing it and we go radio silent for 3 months. It's normal. we all do it. I've done it. I feel like the best way to set yourself up for this is to set realistic goals for yourself. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. So my rules for strategic small business marketing, and a lot of this is focused on making things easier for you. You could Google social media marketing and you can find some instructions that would just make you want to rip out your hair. Things like, you need to post Facebook 3 times a day, every day. You need to post, you know, on your Instagram feed twice a day, and in your stories and in your reels, and you need, you know, all of this stuff. Honestly, if you see something on the internet that tells you to do a thing in order to be a good marketer and it makes you feel overwhelmed, please, please, please close the window and ignore it. I want you to think about what you can do so that you can move forward and consistently present your content confidently. And so you don't burn out. And so you don't get to that spot where you go radio silent, because then, you know, you're going to lose traction and people are going to think you're not there anymore. You know, subconsciously as an audience, we'll just start to fill in the story and think, well, maybe they're not in business anymore. Maybe they moved. Maybe they aren't taking new clients. Oftentimes as a consumer, we just don't think, oh, they're probably just really tired. They probably just don't want to share, so I should reach out instead, which is unfortunate for us as small business owners because it is tiring. So that's why, you know, some of these things I'm going to chat about here are really just meant to make things easier for you. So one, quality over quantity. Don't get lost in the numbers. You can get so in the weeds on likes, follows, outreach, how many people are engaging it, that kind of stuff. And I do think that's data that it can be supportive. But really, I would rather you have 10 people who follow you on Instagram and 50% of them purchase from you. That's quality. That means you're creating an audience of people who are investing in you, your service, they're buying from you, and that's the kind of relationships you want to have. And it doesn't matter. I could have 3,000 followers on Instagram and not make a single sale from that. And I see that all the time. So please don't get lost in the numbers and really focus on how can I have quality messaging that really speaks to my ideal customer, my ideal client, is authentic to me, and starts this foundation for this relationship that is strong and ongoing for you and your customer. Next, embrace the experiment. There is no magic bullet. There is no thing you can do and all of a sudden wake up and have 3 million followers. Sometimes that happens to people, and oftentimes it's dumb luck. It doesn't have much to do with strategy. So really try to be as experimental as possible and to move through that with an understanding that you may try to do a thing that sounds great, that has worked for your friends, that you see other people doing, and it may totally flop. Or you may try a thing and it may do awesome, and then you'll try it again and it'll be different. So many things influence it. There's algorithms that we don't have any control over. They're changing. There's things that are changing in the climate around us. You know, you'll see social media can become kind of difficult to stand out in, especially when it's a big news day. So that's a thing that isn't new to any of us coming out of this last year. I think social media was really full of heavy news. So it was really hard to try to sell a cupcake on Facebook. And that has nothing to do with you, your work, and how effective your strategy is. It's just out of your hands. And so that's why I really encourage you to just lean into the fact that it's going to be experimental, and then you'll always be gathering data. You'll always be getting a little more familiar with your customer and figuring out new ways to speak with them. And sometimes it won't work, and other times it's going to work great. Next, be gentle with yourself. I talked a lot about this. Really, just be kind. Don't take it personally. It's, in the end, it's social media. It's just platforms where we like photos of cats. It's not a, you know, it's not the most important thing in the world. And I really hate to see people beat themselves up over, I created this whole campaign and then nobody engaged with it. It is not personal. So please, please be gentle with yourself. With that, ask for help and budget to hire out what you hate to do. If you already know, I hate Facebook, I don't want to be there, I don't want to be on my computer, I just want to make the thing that I make, then you know that you need to start to plan in your budget to hire somebody to help you, because it is going to be important for you to market yourself somewhere. So unless you have some other plan for marketing that allows you to be offline, especially in a pandemic, then start to think about who you can get to help you so you don't have to do the thing you hate and you can focus on the thing that you like to do. Next is to make a content calendar. Nobody wants to do this. I know it takes time, it's hard, it's frustrating, it's not sexy. However, it helps. It really helps. And this can look different for everybody. Maybe you write it out on paper. Maybe you use an app and a scheduling app. Maybe you use a calendar on your computer. And maybe you get really specific about what it is you want to post on certain days, or maybe you're more broad and you just know I post on Tuesdays. Create some sort of tool that helps you. And this isn't for your audience. This is 100% for you. I mean, your audience may start to notice a pattern and notice like, okay, on Monday, she always posts testimonials. But really what it does is it makes it so when you're tired because you're running a business and marketing isn't your main focus, and you think, oh gosh, I need to post something today. What should I post? If you look to your content calendar and it says it's Monday and today we post client testimonials, it makes it so much easier than having it be, oh, it's Monday and I could post literally anything about my business and I don't know what to say. So then you stare at your phone for an hour and you never post anything. It is very helpful. I know it isn't fun, but I promise it helps. So I really encourage you to do this. Next, work smarter, not harder. Cross-post your content and build an evergreen library. So evergreen content is content that you can keep sharing time and time again. It's not going to expire. It's not super timely. So an example of evergreen content would be like if you talked about your something about your brand values or kind of how you source your materials or something like that, that is always going to be true, regardless of what season it is, regardless of, you know, where we're at in the year, it's still valid content because then you can reshare that content time and time again. An example of this is one of my clients had care instructions for something that they were selling. And so they could just schedule posts that had those care instructions that were just updating people on how to take care of this product, you know, once a month. They had to build it once and then schedule it, maybe tweak the wording if they needed to, and it wasn't a big deal. So really think about how you can build an evergreen library and then cross-post your content. So, you know, you could share the same thing on Facebook and Instagram, which can be super helpful if you're on both those platforms. Another thing that I really encourage people to do is if you're writing blogs, if you're writing longer form content, write the blog and maybe you have some photos or graphic elements or whatever that support that. So maybe you're an accountant and you write a blog about you know, tax tips for the end of the year or something like that. You write the blog, you have some graphics, there's a bunch of valuable information there. Take that and use it in as many ways as you can. You say you have 5 tips there. You could turn that into 5 social media posts. You could use it as a script to record a video. And then you could also use parts of it in your email newsletter. Share it everywhere and use it as much as possible. Just because you made a thing doesn't mean that it can only live in that one place that you made it. You know, I think sometimes people think, well, my audience is going to get bored because they're going to see the same thing from me over and over again. Chances are they're not seeing it from you. I mean, there are very few businesses that I get their newsletter. I follow them on Facebook. I follow them on Instagram. I, you know, watch their videos. You have to be really invested in a business to eat up that much of their content. And just based on the algorithms, a lot of times you're just not going to see it. You're not going to catch the email. You're not going to see the post. So really, use the content you create that you know is quality as much as possible. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Please do it. You're doing yourself a disservice by not doing that. Next, show your personality. People connect to people. I've probably said this 10 times now. We shop with small businesses, especially because they're not Amazon. Amazon doesn't have a personality. Amazon doesn't make us laugh or make us feel heartwarming things. Amazon doesn't make us feel seen and understood and respected and supported. You can do that for your customers. And you do that with your personality and by showing your unique value that you're offering in your messaging. And then lastly, don't share anything without a call to action. If you take anything from what I said today, take this, please. A call to action is you letting your audience know what you want them to do next. So it's going beyond the point of saying, hey, look at this cute picture of a flower, and saying what you want them to do that supports your business. So I like to divide these up into what I call a hard call to action and a soft call to action. So an example of a hard call to action would be Use the link in our profile to purchase this one-of-a-kind handmade necklace with the 20% off discount code, yay sales. Offer ends tonight at midnight. It's very clear what you want to do there. It's a hard ask. You're asking somebody to buy a thing. So maybe you're asking somebody to buy a thing, to call and book a session, to move forward in probably what is a transactional way. Soft call to action. Tag your friends below to share our latest blog post featuring our favorite products for combating dry skin and hair from the Wyoming winds. So this is a softer ask. You're not asking for a purchase. It's not transactional. However, it's still beneficial to you. What you're asking them to do is to tag some friends below, ideally driving traffic to your blog post on your website, getting more people familiar with your brand. Maybe they'll follow along. Maybe they'll sign up for your newsletter. Maybe they'll shop a little bit. Maybe they'll buy something. Or maybe they'll just start to pay attention to what you're selling and then will become a customer later on. This is so, so important. And I see people share content often that just leaves people hanging. And so that is precisely what they will do. If you don't tell them to do anything, they will do nothing. And it's because as viewers, we're lazy. You know, we see a thing and we think it's cool and we scroll on past to the next thing because there's millions of things we can be looking at. We need to be told very directly what it is you want us to do in order to move forward, in order to do it. And it just needs to be easy. If there's a link we need to click, the link needs to be there. If there's a discount code we need to see it. If there's a deadline, we need to see it. Never assume that we know as much information as you do because we don't. And I think oftentimes business owners think that they're being redundant or pushy or salesy or kind of that used car salesman vibe by being too, by presenting too much information like this. But really it's so important. And if you're not doing it already, it's gonna feel weird. Because when we do anything the first time, it feels weird. So it's going to take practice and you're going to have to figure out what feels authentic to you and what kind of voice you want to use, but you need to figure it out or people aren't going to move on to where you want them to go next. So please, please, please start to think about how you can include a call to action in everything that you're putting out there in your marketing. So I included this in here just to have a few more resources on some of the social media tools I love. This is a slide that goes to all my clients when we start working together. Canva we talked about. It's a graphic design platform, super user friendly. I really encourage you to check it out. There's a free version and a paid version. This is one of the few apps that I actually feel like I could stand behind saying the paid version is worth it. I can't remember what it's worth or what you pay for it. It's not a lot, but it is super helpful if you're creating a lot of graphics. So I'm willing to hang my hat on that, but the free version also is lovely and great to work with, and I still recommend it. If it's not in your budget, use the free one, and it'll be hugely supportive. Your smartphone's app store, I included this mostly because there's so many apps, I couldn't ever tell you what my favorite app is, and we're all different, we're all trying to do different things, but chances are if you're trying to do edit a photo or a video or add text to something, or you're looking for some kind of resource, there's probably an app for it. So I really encourage you to maybe do some Googling and to see what apps people recommend for the thing that you're trying to do, or ask around, ask your friends, particularly your people who own businesses or doing marketing, see what they're using to create content that you really like. I think that's one of the best ways to find tools, and there's loads of stuff out there that's free or very cheap that can make your life so much easier. And lastly is your analytic data. So keep in mind, I said don't get lost in the numbers. You can get in the weeds here, and I don't want you to get in the weeds here. However, I think it can be helpful to take a peek every now and then at your analytic data to see where your audience is at and what they're engaging with, what's performing well, what isn't, just to kind of give you a broad understanding of what's happening behind the scenes. So if you don't have a business Instagram or a business Facebook, or if you aren't gathering analytic data through your newsletter, so if maybe you're using like MailChimp or Constant Contact, they have analytic data built into those platforms. So I really encourage you to take a look at it. And if you're not on Facebook or Instagram on the business accounts, then be sure to switch to the business accounts, because this is only available on those accounts. You can't do it on personal ones. And I think that's a real big perk of being on those. I feel like most days now people are on these business accounts, but just in case you aren't, I highly suggest making the switch. So just to do a little bit of review here before I open it up to some questions here in the last 10 minutes or so. This is the big question that I want you to take with you, and that page of notes that you have to continue to really ruminate on this. How do you specifically, connect with you specifically customer? So first, you're going to get familiar with them. You're going to create that customer profile. You're going to have that imaginary interview. You're going to find out what excites them, where they're spending their money, what their life looks like, and you're going to really understand what they need from you now in the pandemic, what they need from you in other times. You're just going to get to know them a little bit better. Next, you're going to get confident in your unique value. You're going to figure out what it is you have to say, and you're going to figure out how to say it in a way that is confident, that is showing that you are offering something great, whatever that thing is. I guarantee that you all have a thing that is great that you're offering. You just need to figure out the way to say it. Next, you're going to determine how to best communicate that message to them. Where are you going to host these messages? Are you going to be on Facebook? Is it going to be in a newsletter? Are you going to do it with graphics? Are you going to do a video series? Are you going to do a photo series? What is the best way to communicate this to them? And then lastly, you're going to keep the conversation going. You're going to use tools and resources to set yourself up to keep going, to be consistent, to not fall off the wagon, to not go radio silent. And last, you're never going to share anything without a call to action, because it's important. I don't think I need to talk about that anymore. So I now would like to open it up to any questions to see if there's anything I could answer here. Also, I wanted to remind you that handout section, you can download that PDF for those links to those trainings that I mentioned. I do see here that you guys shared some of your content that has performed well. Yes, photos and videos work best. Sorry, you guys, I'm reading it. Just listen to me silently read your comments. Well, I will let you guys think and add any questions here while I go over a few more slides. Get to where I need to be. Actually, I'm going to go back here really fast. Like I mentioned, I'm with the COVID-19 support program. Our resources are available until April 30th. So you can become a client by going to wyomingwomen.org/COVID-19-support. And my email address is right there. So go ahead and jot that down if you want to get in touch with me or Veronica. Her information will be here on the screen again shortly. I'll give you just a second here. Okay, so some special shout outs to our funding partners. The Wyoming Women's Business Center is made possible through several partnership agencies. The center's primary funding comes from the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council. We are so thankful for their support and guidance from these partners and look forward to our work ahead. Here you'll see some more contact information for our business counselors at the WWBC. If you're interested in getting some individualized business counseling, you can reach out to our business counselor, Jonathan Howdeshell. His contact information is on the left. And if you would like to meet with me for free one-on-one social media counseling, you can sign up for our COVID-19 support program by contacting our project facilitator, Veronica. Her contact information is there again on the right. And be sure to visit our website at wyomingwomen.org to learn about all of our services and to fill out our online intake form. And if you enjoyed this webinar, we have lots of topics coming up. Remember to visit our website to register to those here under that training tab that's circled in blue. And also getting on the newsletter is a really great way to be updated about these webinars. And to keep in mind that if you can't make the live event, they're always recorded and sent to your inbox after the live event. So when we close this webinar today, a survey is going to pop up on your screen. It's a quick 5-question survey, and I ask that you stay online and complete it for us. We read every survey, and it helps us plan our upcoming calendar to improve our offerings. So I really encourage you to fill that out and include any topics that maybe you would like to hear from us. So thanks again for everyone who's attending. I'm just going to do another check here and make sure that there aren't any questions. It doesn't look like there are, but again, if anything pops up, then don't hesitate to reach out to me or Veronica, and we'll shoot you in the right direction. Have a good afternoon, everyone.